Hola, Carlos.
This is going to be our logo.
What about that one survey we were reading? Oh, really? In a different state or just a different? She just moved here.
Yeah. You don't see them, you know?
I think we lost about half our people. That happened with the other team.
Well, they're typically usually ready to go home or Michigan.
Well, I think so. Butch went away this time, and Jan said that she and Jerry were going to take Becky out there because she's one of her favorite Mexican foods. So,
That means that we can pick another one.
yeah, or we use a chair for something. And then Ida's back there, so she's.
I think she had a little bit more here.
Yeah.
How's your family doing?
So I figured if this was a time, you know. I know, he's home right now.
I haven't seen her in years. She's in the same class as Sunday school. Lisa. And then she was living in and we were after David retired.
Oh, right.
Sue was the
I got everything.
This is hot water.
Oh, that's what I need to do.
Actually, I like to drink it.
Thank you, George.
Thank you for your assistance.
Particularly since you asked.
So we're the only ones here?
Well, I just in the kitchen. I'm not sure where Jeremy's doing. Down over there. Now the choir party's over there. Did you drink? Sandy's still over there.
Emma's still over the house. She's the one I was getting around to.
Carpus get one?
Nursing facility.
It's the person here. And she I don't know, somebody should say
And does she have people like
Oh no, this is like a lazy boy, just chairs and stuff in it to sit
Thinking of my kids. That's what I remember. Because they were here.
well, I have an opinion on who I like to still in. I don't care. But of course I would like to be equal to anybody but Kansas City.
Right. Hi, everyone. Keep eating. Keep eating. We're going to get this going because there's a game this afternoon. There's a march for others. There's a bunch of things happening this afternoon. So I am calling this congregational meeting to order with prayer. Clerk. God, thank you for the food, for the companionship, for the multitude of gifts that nourish us. This time is for you, for us to organize and to be in good order with our gifts and announcements and clear communication and plans for the future. So thank you for how far you've led us, and thank you for being with us now. Jesus, we pray all this in your name. Amen. Okay. Clerk, I'm verifying that there is a quorum. And she says, yes, there is a quorum. Okay, I'm just being official. Okay. Notice of this meeting was made the 2 previous Sundays on the church calendar and in our weekly Staying Connected. And the purpose of the meeting today is to receive the 2024 annual report, elect members at large for the 2025 nominating committee, receive the 2025 budget, and share our vision for 2025. Copies of the church's 2024 annual report were made available at the start of the meeting. Did everybody get one of those? Yeah, they're at your table with a really beautiful cover of photographs designed by Heidi McKinley. So thank you, Heidi, for that. Is this being live streamed?
It was supposed to be, but I guess it's not.
We're not sure. Just in case, I'll say that those online may pick them up from the office or download them from the website. And if this isn't streamed, we'll make sure folks know where to receive it. Friends, at the start of our meeting, it is with both a sadness for our own loss and joy for those who have been brought to their eternal home that I share the names of those that we have said goodbye to this year. So here they are, friends. Richard Dupree on January 26th. Jerry Hain, March 26th. Gwen Johnson, April 22nd. Eileen Besson, May 3rd. Kathy Bales, May 10th. Jerry Titterington, May 13th. Carol Cunningham, May 15th. Bonnie Glenn, May 30th. Steve Locke, July 12th. Larry Redfield, July 31st. Bob Donnell, October 11th. We also recognize that there were other services here, that there were family members and friends we lost this year. And we want to especially share our condolences to Daryl and Wanda Feldner, to Sue Jordan and Grace and Wes Osborne, who grieve the loss of their children this last year. Kelly Feldner, Bobby Jordan, and Todd Folks. We offer a moment of quiet to remember these precious people. Oh God, thank you for the gift of their life. Amen. Well, hi, come on up. The nominating committee is composed of 3 members at large elected by the congregation, 1 currently serving elder selected by the session, and 1 currently serving deacon selected by the deacons. And I'm going to welcome up the chair, Stephanie McDonald.
Hello. So I get the pleasure of introducing the current 2024 nominating committee. So would you please stand when I call your name? So we started with 1 deacon, but we ended with Lori Wood. Lori, stand up. And then I know Cindy Lewis is not here because they're moving this weekend, but Cindy Lewis and I think Linda Simpson wasn't able to make it either. And then Jeannie Strong was the last one on the current nominating committee. So please join me in thanking them for their hard work this year. And then the members of the incoming 2025 nominating committee, previously selected by session and deacons. The elder is chairing the committee will be Ann Goodman. Yay, Ann! And since Lori caught on the tail end of the committee, she gets to re-up on that one. thank you. And now the nominees for the incoming 2025 nominating committee members at large. So remember, we have 3 members at large on the committee. So we have Mary Kay Inc. Is she here? Oh, she's not here. Okay, Susan Jarbo and Dan Saragusa. I think only Susan's here. So at this point, oh, you called her.
Yes. Okay. So the nominating committee has placed names before you, and at this time I will ask for nominations from the floor, and please remember that you must have the consent of the person you nominate. Are there any nominations from the floor? Okay. If there are no additional nominations, I will entertain a motion to close the nominations and direct the clerk to record a unanimous ballot for the slate presented by the nominating committee. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. I think that was Judy. Okay, all in favor of receiving this slate for nominating, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. You're done. Well, you're done for 5 minutes. Okay, friendly reminder that the nominating committee is not quite done with their work. It carries through until the end of February. We've got a few more weeks left. And the new term for the new nominating committee begins March 1st, 2025 and ends February 28th, 2026. As we head into reports, we're going to do something that a couple of our meetings have started doing. At our worship planning time on Mondays, we always start with points of joy, ways that we see God moving, things we're celebrating. It could be something very small, like a child dancing. It could be something big, like a collective sense of where God is taking us. So that's that meeting on Mondays. And then we've started to practice these points of joy at session. And I noticed that in the first couple of session meetings, it was like crickets. Like you don't know what's expected of you. And it's just supposed to be like a 1-minute popcorn. And then in the last month or two at session, it's like taken off. And we realize, there's all these things to celebrate. Friendships and Marsha Boring's cookies and, all the things. So we're going to take a moment, and this is really a practice just focused here on our faith family, but just some moments of joy and celebration before we get into the nitty-gritty business. Shout out what is a moment of joy for you.
My meds are working.
Yeah,
Meds.
new meds. Yes, thank you. What else?
The kids' table in the back.
The kids'
Or
table and
everyone
the arts corner that has been occupied by the kids and their sense of ownership there. Yeah. What else? Family. Yeah. What are moments of joy? What? Nancy and George. You are a highlighted moment of joy back there. Thank you. We see you serving. Okay, others, moments of joy? New babies, celebrating life and death with each other.
Children's giggles.
Children's giggles, preaching team, music. Yeah. Dancing. Dancing in the service. It is allowed.
How do you and I are dancing?
Yeah, it's been a joy to receive the gift of the quilts in the sanctuary and people's talent and their stories behind them. So thank you. Suze was recently, the children. Any other moments of joy you want to highlight? Bells. Anything else? Wanda, who goes above and beyond with our kids.
Sandra's message 2 weeks ago.
What's that?
Sandra's message 2 weeks ago.
Sandra's message earlier, a couple weeks ago. Yes. Yeah, Teresa.
Sue said love from her church family.
Sue Jordan says love from her church family. Oh, we love you back. Yeah. All right. Well, as we do business, let's remember all the good and all the love that shows up in so many ways around us. You have a full 20-something page report before you. We will not be reading it aloud. We will encourage you to take that home and to really peruse the pages. Our committees have devoted time to sharing with you what's happening. There's many highlights. There are hopes for the future. We're just going to have a couple of brief announcements and highlights right now. There will be 3 of them, and the first will be Wanda Feldner, and she will share. And Carlos, you're up after Wanda.
I would like to share some of what has been happening this past year in Christian education. We are happy to have more children coming to Kids Club and Sunday School, and to have new volunteers helping on Thursday evening and Sunday morning. Megan Benjamin is doing singing with the Kids Club children, and she created the great space at the back of the sanctuary for the Sunday School children, where they can do art, Play-Doh, etc., while they're in church. Heather Brown is new. She's been teaching the Sunday School and Kids Club. We have different volunteers doing a different special activity at Kids Club each week, and volunteers assisting the Sunday School teachers each week. We are always looking for other volunteers to help with the programs. If you have a hobby, an interest, a talent you could share, we would love to have you at Kids Club. We've had Joe Saxon has done wooden crafts with the kids. Mary Saxon shared some simple first aid and helped the kids make small first aid kits. Cindy showed them how to do a science experiment with M&Ms. They love that. They made pies with Barbara Flick. They made dessert at dinner with our wonderful kitchen crew that's here every week. And they met with Pastor Kim in her office. We did a cleanup on campus for a Martin Luther King Jr. service day. And Abe Lincoln and George Washington visited us last week for President's Day. And that's just a few of the things. It's very varied, and we would really like you to join and help in with that. On Sunday morning, we need a person each week to just assist the Sunday school teacher. No experience or teaching required, just be there with the teacher. And I haven't named everyone, but we really appreciate our volunteers. You make it possible for us to provide the children with a safe, fun place to be. We could really use more of you, and I encourage you to give us an hour of your time once in a while. And I have sign-up sheets with me today. So Carlos will tell you more of what's been happening. And Daryl and I have been here for over 50 years, and there's been a lot of changes. Been here over 50 years. But it's important that we accept and go with these key changes. That's how we will know that we're following what God has planned for us. Thank you.
Buenos días, good morning. I have 3 items to report on. First of all, C7. As you know, last year we started working on C7 as part of a grant we got from PCUSA 1001 in worshiping community. We have finalized the first phase, so we're going into the second one. We're already discerning how we're going to be presenting the application for the next grant and so on. So thank you for your support. Thank you for supporting everybody that has been involved in C7. We have a great group of team leaders with Carmen and Sam and Marisela and Sandra. We already got, a preacher out of it, so I'm afraid of my job now. I'm very concerned about it. But, thank you so much. The second item that I wanted to report on is Welcome Ministry. As you know, we have been working in Welcome Ministry now for 3 months. 1 year ago, I started working for Welcome Ministry as well. So we are in the process of developing a new vision, new mission, for the ministry, and of course, this church is an important part of it. So we're gonna keep you posted. We are transitioning into a new process, and we were able to find a wonderful sister that is planning to help us out with Melissa Esten. So she's gonna be guiding us through the process of a new vision and mission for the ministry. And then I need to report on the working group on Christian experience. This is in relation to Christian Ed. I want to express my gratitude to Marsha Boring. She guided us through the process of re-envisioning our ministry. That's the good part of it. The other part of it is that she left a ton of work for me. So that's going to take me a lot of time. But thank you, Marsha, for all that brainstorm, and we're looking forward into that. Regarding Welcome Ministry, I know that many of you have asked about the protein packs. We're going to bring the congregation into it in March of this year, so be ready for it. We continue distributing the packs. They are very important, and they are more important now than ever before. And last but not least, go Eagles!
I'm sorry, Kansas City, I'm sorry.
And Elder Marsha Boring, the baker, who is going to share a little bit about sessions process.
The baker. What a label. Good one. Church baker. The baker.
Yeah, new title. New title. Kim asked me just to speak a little bit about what Session has been doing. So we started out 2 years ago, I guess, working on the values that we brought to the church. We then started working on the mission statement, and a consultant, Rob Douglas, was brought in. He got a grant to have him come in and work with us on our mission statement and our vision statement, which all of you, I'm sure, know because we keep saying it over and over. But if you'll say it with me, to become a welcoming refuge where everyone has a seat at Christ's table. And so then the question came up, if that's our vision, that's where we want to go, we're not there yet, what are we going to do? And so last year we were asked to do a crystal ball activity to think about where we want to see the church in 5 years. And so last month we met again and we went over those dreams that we had for the crystal ball, and to see if they still align with the mission statement. And so some of those dreams are to become a more multi-generational, multicultural, and multilingual community, to become accessible to everyone, to build affordable and refugee housing, and to be an example to others. So as in others in the Presbytery, other churches, to see what we're doing and to be a model for that. But then the question again is, how do we do that? So now it's time to be bold and try some courageous experiments. So we say experiments because they're ideas we're going to try, see if they work, kind of track along, make tweaks along the way. If they don't work, toss them out, be grateful for the process, and try something different. So that's kind of where we are right now. As we talked about this, the 2 words from our vision statement, welcoming and everybody, came up. And we started talking in small groups, and when everyone came back, we kind of came to a consensus that racial healing was our top priority. And so how do we become a more inclusive church, and how do we align with Matthew 25 in this? So more information will be coming as we roll this out. This is not something just for the elders to do. This is for everyone to become involved in, that we do ask for your prayers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, it is my honor and privilege to welcome up Stephanie McDonald, our treasurer. Some of you know that our dear Stephanie is moving far, far away to the land of Florida. But here's what we have going for us. Judy Farrar. We have Judy Farrar, and Stephanie promises to visit at times monthly. So she will be continuing her duties for a bit. She will still be around, but not quite as much. And so we have a little time. Today isn't the celebration of her. Today is just the announcement. But she worked so faithfully and so tirelessly for our church. There are many odd hours when I am at the church alone and I hear someone, and it's Stephanie, sneaking in and doing all kinds of things to bless us and to oversee our budget with such integrity and to explain things and renew things. So Stephanie's moving, y'all. But this isn't a final goodbye. It's just the beginning of celebrating who she is.
Denial. We're all in denial. Denial. So you can see my house and it's in boxes right now. Hi, everybody. Hi. So we get to review the 2024 year-end financial report, not the whole annual report. Then I'm going to offer a short update on funding forward and what we've been doing, and then the 2025 budget is also in the annual report. So if you look at pages 18 and 19, that's where my stuff is. So the fund summary and the balance sheet are on page 18. So it shows all the different accounts, identified accounts in the church funds. So if anybody has any questions, and you have them now, you can ask them. Otherwise, you're free to email me at the treasurerfirstpres-elcajón.org email. But those are the fund summaries. I am happy to say last year, and I know it sounds funny to say we budget at a deficit, but we know we have the Head Start funds that we can always pull from. Session, when Head Start first started, remind everybody, Session voted to put those funds in a special account and not to include them in the general funds. And then at the end of the year, if we need to draw from them to help balance the budget, Session does that motion. So last year, when we did the 2024 budget, I think we estimated having to pull $95,000 out of the Head Start funds, if I remember correctly. And I'm happy to say we only had to pull just over $50,000 from the Head Start funds. A lot of that was just expenses that we didn't have because some of the committees weren't doing everything that they had estimated to do. The other thing we did is the administration committee this year made a big push to look at our endowments, not the endowments that we've given to the Presbyterian, but the endowments that we manage, and the savings accounts we have. And we had determined that the financial institution they were at in the past wasn't really doing us any favors. So we interviewed 3 different financial planners and selected one. And January 4th of 2024, we moved over all those funds to Wedbush, who's the new investment banker. And they are actively doing exactly what we asked them to do. And the revenue off those endowment funds was over $20,000 this year, compared to $2,000 the year prior. So big change, much appreciated, and I appreciate the admin committee coming along and doing that with me. So the 2025 budget is on page 19. Once again, we are budgeting having to pull quite a bit from the Head Start funds. The big increases are personnel, which is always the big increase, right? We approved Kim's new call in November, if you remember that. So we don't have to do that today. But it also included, I believe, a 2% raise for the rest of the staff. And then the other increases in the admin budget, and unfortunately, as I'm sure you have found at your house, our property insurance keeps going up and up and up.
Yes.
There is not a whole lot we can do about that. So that's the big increase in the admin line. Any questions on the budget? Session did approve it already, so you guys are just, this is just me presenting it to you and you receiving it. Any questions?
Thanks.
Okay, and then our funding forward update. Oh, Heidi, sorry.
Just a question about how Head Start is holding up with all the recent changes, and I just had a quick question, maybe you can address it, maybe not. Do we know anything about the stability of our Head Start program long-term due to recent changes in the national government goals?
Right, that's a great question. And that did come up at session, and I believe the consensus was from our educators in the room that with the pushes California is making for early childhood education, that they would turn around and fund the Head Start program if federally it's not funded. They're going to fund that before they go to the even younger kids that they're trying to reach. So, good question. That's our hope, yes. Our hope and our prayer. So the other thing I'm supposed to talk about is the Funding Forward. So the Funding Forward group has been meeting pretty regularly all year. Just a reminder, if you're one of the few people who haven't done your survey yet, we asked you guys all to complete these surveys to give us your interests, to see how you could help with the church. I think we had 72 turned in, and our goal is 100, so we're close. So there's a list. I think Cindy has a list of who is a regular member or attendee who hasn't filled one out. So if you're on the naughty list, don't be surprised if Cindy catches you on the way out. Right? Anything else? I get everything, Cindy? Okay. Does anybody have any other questions for me? All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie. Someone this week shared with me, a stranger, shared with me that they're going to a mega church online when faith came up and they're kind of wanting to like dip their toes back in. And they said, yeah, it just feels, like a big production, but it's online, and that's kind of how I'm entering right now. And again, what I'm sharing right now is not a diss on Starbucks or mega churches, okay? But then the person said, man, I just remember this time, a couple of decades ago when I was really down and out, and I wandered into a church in Escondido, and it was tiny, but everyone sang songs that made me cry and welcomed me in love, and it was just this little church of good people doing good work. And I surprised myself. I didn't boast, oh, that's my church. What came out of my mouth was, that's what my church gives me. And I'm like, we're not tiny, but we are not a mega church. But it has been a community that has hard conversations, and sometimes conflicts, but loves big and keeps returning to who Jesus is and Jesus' teachings and who he calls us to be, and making space for this big gospel story and for those who are being left out. So I start by just saying thank you again. Thank you for being you. I really can't even get work done in the office because it is so loud in there every day of the week because we have so many volunteers and activities, and it's a sign of life. You guys know I had a coffee shop at a couple of places where I have to do more like focused prep. There's so much life, there are so many hands, and so thank you for your service and all the seen and unseen ways that you give. Thank you also for supporting me personally. After, as we talk about the LA fires, after our family's fire journey, we finally moved back less than a year ago, and you celebrated with us. And then our firstborn went off to college, which was a huge transition, and you have checked in on us and on him. A couple of weeks ago, one of you who knows that my husband travels for work said, how is Alabama for Jeremy? And I said, is that where he was? So anyway, thank you for holding us in your hearts and in your prayers. We're so grateful. We talk as a community a lot about the both and how Jesus was so perfect in modeling the both and of like grief and joy, of being tough and tender, of life and death, and of course holding his humanity and his divinity, and showing us how to step into those both and spaces. And last year felt really dense with the both and. There were great losses, and there were lots of tears. And it is easy to dwell in the sadness on a personal note, and then of course on a global level. But we are also becoming and being a people oriented to joy, no matter what. A people who celebrate and pay attention. So here are just some things that came to my mind of my points of joy from 2024. If you recall, the year started with baptisms on Epiphany. And sweet little Zayden, who couldn't decide if he wanted to be immersed or sprinkled, and so we agreed that I would just like dump a ton of water over his head. So his sweet face and this surprise on all of us is etched in my mind. Marcia shared about Rob Douglas, who's been our coach. And you've heard like things that we can't afford. We have a bunch of people who are writing grants. And we have things covered, and we're just being wise with our time and our asks. So that is something that's been covered. When Rob met with us last year, and any elder can attest to this, his enthusiasm for us was contagious. And I think what we sensed was, this is long, hard work for him. And he's been called in to help churches close their doors or have like a come to Jesus about how they're so inward focused. They have forgotten there are people in their neighborhood suffering. And so to hear this consultant with elation say like, oh my goodness, you guys are on the same page and you don't agree about all this stuff, but you're all going this direction and Jesus' love is at the center of it, was really affirming. He spent a whole day with us again in January and reiterated that, and it felt like, there's stuff to work out, but there's all this alignment, so I celebrate that. I'm celebrating that there are new voices on session. Often in church culture, you just have like the same folks cycling in and out and in and out. So it's really lovely that we're having new people join in a number of capacities. I'm looking at our head usher over there who has taken that on and is back from the Philippines. Anthony, thank you. It's not just our elders. There's new voices, new volunteers. I do love that there's a lot of love, even when we disagree. We've had some recent staff reviews, and our staff communicated that they were really happy working here. Okay, we'll take it. We're so glad. We're celebrating that our children feel a sense of ownership. Sometimes maybe too much, but like a few years ago, it was Avila. It was Avila, and there's kids that run around and make noise and irritate us, and then we're reminded this is the kingdom of God, and they have a place here. And so I love that they don't just have to come in, but that they feel like, oh no, the sanctuary is mine. This is my corner. This is my seat. Thank you for welcoming them. And Wanda, like this is kind of new. We've had families really integrate from our neighborhood outreach, from Kids Club, and become a part of us. It's so great. We are learning to have fun amidst the hard. And these are hard, long days. Pandemic was long and hard. And some of us feel like that hasn't shifted and the difficulty is rising personally and collectively. So we will continue to practice God's joy. I mentioned that, actually, Megan, will you look in my purse? Because I think there's a dance button. Some of you have asked about this. You hear, you get smiles and moans, which is what happens every time. This is, my little sister. This is, I overthink things. She buys this, and it like wins the whole family over. So we started using this at session over a year ago, because things can get long, and like we're talking about big stuff, so sometimes you just need you're gonna have to beatbox, George, if this thing doesn't work. And the rule is that you have to dance, and if you don't feel like dancing and all you can do is wiggle a finger, it counts. Oh my goodness, it's caught on. And you realize 30 seconds is even longer. Can you imagine? I like it.
Keep going.
And it's going. So we started this session just for a little levity and to remember the joy of the Lord. And a couple of groups, including the deacons, felt a little left out that they didn't have a dance button. So we brought the dance button to deacons last month, and we're willing to find more if that is a desire out there, and we need that kind of levity. But speaking of dance buttons, it felt appropriate that on the last day of 2024, there was a spontaneous, organic gathering of families. And it was families in our church and some families at Kids Club, and they occupied this space where you're all sitting. And there were 900 games. Just in case anybody got bored, and cookie coloring and all these things by Heather, who did this masterful job. And I stopped in. So two things of note. I stopped in, and we stunned the children when the moms did NSYNC's Bye 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 with flow choreography. And it was just this full, wonderful, messy dance party. But then Wanda, who had New Year's Eve plans, stopped in, and it was unreal. I thought they were going to throw her in the air and like run her around holding her. All the children were chanting her name, and that sense of multi-generational that Marcia mentioned, it is one of our greatest assets here, because we all need kids, and we all need parents and chosen family and grandparents, and I love that happens here. So my big hope coming into the next year is really not programmatic. We've been working so hard on affordable housing and the refugee apartment and creativity and arts and investing in our young ones and in re-examining all-age spiritual formation. I think all that's going to happen. It is. I anticipate those things will move forward and grow. My deep hope is that we stay intimately grounded in God, that we remember that the Spirit is with us, filling us, flowing out of us. My great hope is that we are grounded in that deep love, that our roots grow deep, and then they continue out beyond us over and over again. So please remember there's a seat for you and there's a seat for others. And that's my report, y'all. Any questions for me? We're going to keep moving. Is there a motion at this time to send the minutes of this meeting to the session? Is there a motion? A motion? Yeah, Jason, you can make it. New member, you can make it. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. I'm adjourning with prayer, and I'm going to welcome Cindy Graham up, and we'll give you some more instructions. God, thank you for you're good. Thank you for joy and laughter. We don't fall apart in despair, even though sometimes we face things that are so hard, we think we will, and yet you pick us up, and you give us a new kind of family, and you give us purpose and hope for the future, and so we are banking on that now, and we just thank you for your provision. I thank you for these good people that know how to love well. Grow that in us. Jesus, we pray all this in your name. Amen. We are officially adjourning the annual meeting, and we understand if you got a scoop, but we have our courageous conversation right now, and it won't be too long, but it is important, and it's on immigration enforcement action, what we need to know as a church. There have been a lot of us who have done lots and lots and lots of research, like many of you have, and maybe your own workplaces have sent you PDFs and some next steps. If you don't totally know what's going on or why that's important, Cindy is going to share that with you. She's done a ton of reading and research, and we'll talk about the implications for our church. Maybe I'll read this.
Good morning, thank you. Before I start, George is in the back of the building. There's a box of some stuff that was left here that I found when I was getting ready for a meeting a while back. If it's yours, will you please take it? If not, I'm throwing it away today. Thank you.
I can answer that.
Yeah?
I found this by the dumpster and brought it in for somebody to use, and it never got to you.
For 2
Back in the
months.
dumpster.
2 months. We've been trying to figure out where that box came
Where that box came from. Now we know.
Now we know.
Mystery solved.
It was gone.
So if anybody would like to go through it, you're welcome to. Thank you. Well, I picked the right person to show the box. Thank you, George. All right, so as you know, on January 20th of this year, a policy was rescinded that restricted immigration enforcement from sensitive areas. Sensitive areas include schools, healthcare facilities, places of worship, places where children gather, social services establishments, disaster emergency response sites, weddings, funerals, and other religious ceremonies, parades, demonstrations, and rallies. Now agents can enter public areas of organizations without permission. Public areas can include lobbies, waiting areas, and parking lots. For us here at the church, in our church, this would include our narthex and our sanctuary on Sunday mornings, and other spaces where no key or code is required to access, meaning if anything is open, the door is not locked or shut, then agents can enter it. Agents are only allowed to enter private areas of organizations if they have a judicial warrant or expressed permission from the organization. This is because of our Fourth Amendment, which protects people from unreasonable searches and seizures and allows them to have a reasonable expectation of privacy. Private areas are spaces that aren't freely accessible to the public. This could include interior areas marked by a private sign. A judicial warrant must be issued by a court and signed by a judge or a magistrate. I know what those look like, being on the grand jury for 3 years. It must indicate a specific location to search. It must specify a time period. It must describe the person or the place that's being searched, and it must describe the items to be seized. There are other kinds of warrants available. For example, an administrative warrant could be issued by ICE or another federal agency, but it doesn't have the same judicial level as a judicial warrant. For those, we have the right to say no. If we give express permission here on the church, that means we say yes to a request to be let into private areas. If any law enforcement officer requests to be let into one of our private areas, we have the right to say no. Once an agent enters a public or private space, they may detain the person for whom the warrant is issued only. If the agent has been given permission to enter a space without a warrant, then they may question people which may include questions about their immigration status. Remember that the Fifth Amendment gives people the right to remain silent when confronted by law enforcement. Remember that both the Fourth and the Fifth Amendments protect all people in the United States, regardless of their immigration status. Undocumented immigrants still have constitutional rights, including the right to counsel if accused of a crime. And the Constitution uses the word person or people living within its jurisdiction, not the word citizen. It's also worth knowing that not all undocumented people have entered the country illegally. In fact, many have entered legally, but may have overstayed their visa, or are working without authorization, or they may be seeking asylum, or they have entered with a border crossing card. Being an undocumented person in the United States is only punishable legally if someone has already left or been deported or has re-entered without permission. We have congregants who are immigrants. They are most likely feeling very vulnerable to this policy change. As a church where we are a welcoming refuge, it is important that we help protect the rights of all people. El Cajon has tens of thousands of immigrants who are also most likely feeling very vulnerable. Our inner and outer community are feeling the effects of this policy change. Session will be meeting later today to discuss our action steps in light of this policy change. We worship a loving God who reminds us and asks us to love others as ourselves. We will be looking now as how we continue to love our immigrant friends and neighbors as well. I have printed a copy of what I just read. It's at the back table now. And then I've also printed, they're called red cards, but we made them white. And these are reminders of what your constitutional rights are in case you're a law enforcement agent comes to you, whether it's immigration or not, police, sheriffs, whatever. I have them in Spanish and in Arabic and in English, and I can get a lot more. I apologize that they're the folded version and not the front and back. I didn't realize there was a shift in where the words were on the back, so the back is off center, so I made them foldable, and I didn't want to throw those away. Any questions at this point? I'll do my best to answer them. Tom, I'm not a lawyer, by the way.
That's an easy one. You reference a policy change. I assume you're referring to an executive order.
Yes.
If you have the numbers, that would be good for reference. And for those who are interested in knowing what they exactly say, you can kind of use the website. I think it's called Registry.
Well, I do have 4 websites noted on the handout where you can get more information. To me, the best one's the National Immigration Law Center.
Last night there's a federal registry that lists all the executive orders.
Okay. Okay.
Keeps the rumors down.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. Anybody else questions?
So you can still say no to this resolution?
Still possible to say no to this new law, or you do have to accept it?
So if a law enforcement agent has a judicial warrant from a court that's signed, and it's for a specific person or place, we cannot say no. That we have to say yes to.
Otherwise you can't.
Otherwise, we can say no. Yes. Okay, if it's not from a court.
So how do you see that? Is there a signature carry with them?
Yes, they would have to carry it with them. Mhm. Yeah, and it's a full 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. It's got the name of the court above. It tells exactly who it is that they're looking for or what space they're looking to. Yeah, it's a regular piece of paper. Mhm. Yes.
Routinely during church service, oftentimes we'll have either the double doors locked or the gate locked during church service. Does that count as being locked, and does that prevent, do you know if that would prevent them from coming in without the warrant?
It has to be expressed as a private area, so, no. Yeah.
But I will say, Anthony, session is meeting right after to discuss the role of the welcome table and the ushers as our first, because you will be the ones that have that first point of interaction. So we're not going to leave you hanging, there will be guidance.
Anthony, like for example, there are some spaces that would be obviously private, like a bathroom. Okay. Right.
So Cindy, is there a way, I mean, because obviously, you know, we have people who like to forge documents that aren't actually legal. Is there a specific document that, or way of looking at a document to ensure that it is in fact an official?
To the best of my ability, yes, there is, because on the, I just said it earlier, the federal grand jury that I was on, I was the foreperson, and I actually had to go take the warrant down to the judge to have it accepted and everything. It's very obvious. It's got the name of the court on there. It'll have the judge's signature and pen, you know, not a fax, not a copy. It'll have a stamp on the document. So you just, I mean, we'll be sharing what those look like, samples, right? But yes.
I just know that, like, I mean, obviously those samples are out there.
Sure.
And people do.
It's, you know, it's always possible.